I would like to thank Caressa for sending me this story. And if tone deaf, naivety, and walking disappointment was a person, including some other adjectives that I can't think of at the moment, you're looking at the human version of it on your screen. Ben Carson. Like, this person is an utter disappointment. I would have never thought in a million years that this is the person that we would have presented before us, because he was held up in a very large way, even beyond the black community. I remember when I was a child, when I was in elementary school, he had did a presentation at this hall where we went to like on a field trip, and we went to go see him, and he was displaying like different images of people in which he did operations for, and he was explaining his life as well as his career. That was years ago. We're talking about back in like the early 2000s when that occurred. Who would have thought that this was the person before us today? Like, I'm talking about just a complete shell of what he used to be. I swear, like, I don't believe that this could actually happen, but I'm starting to think this man might have been cloned. I think he might have actually had that operation like on the movie Get Out for real, and he's not who he really is. So Caressa sent me this article, and the thing is, I wasn't going to talk about this, but the opportunity presents itself every single time. So he has come out recently and says that the NFL players should explain why they kneel. First off, it's more of like, why did he kneel? Because it's more so Colin Kaepernick, because it wasn't really a they thing. I mean, Eric Reed was one, like maybe one other person, so I guess you could say they. But he says should explain why they kneeled. But Colin Kaepernick has explained over and over why he kneeled. He didn't have to explain it so many times, because you get tired of repeating yourself. There's video online that explains why he did it. There's articles written up of why he did it. And Ben Carson, if you want to know why he kneeled, all you have to do is look at what happened 2 weeks ago with George Floyd. Or you can even look back in the last few years, the last 4, to be quite honest, and see why he did it. Like, where have you been? Have you been asleep this whole time? I mean, we know you got those droopy eyes every single time we see you. Like you allergic to shellfish or something. But you would think that this person right here, who has actually faced, well, I believe he might have faced racial discrimination in his life, probably most likely for law enforcement, would understand that. But then again, just seeing how he has been acting for the last few years, like I said, that's why I believe that he's just a shell of his former self. But I'm going to go ahead and read this article and see what else they're discussing. Housing and Urban Development Secretary, and I still believe he does not deserve that position, Ben Carson, said Sunday that there will be greater understanding and less backlash if NFL players made it clear that they were kneeling to protest police brutality and not to disrespect the military on the flag. Whew. All you can do is just laugh at this stuff. Like, you can't even bring yourself to be upset, disappointed, or mad. Honestly. But NFL players have made that point over and over again in the years since quarterback Colin Kaepernick, then of the San Francisco 49ers, began the national anthem protest in 2016. My personal feeling is if those players were to come out and say we love our nation, we are patriots, we love our flag, we honor the memory of those who died to give us our freedom, but we are protesting some of the brutality that has occurred. No, not some. All. Ben Carson. Don't try to tone it down. It's not no some. It's all. Especially that against those people who happen to be black. And the thing is, Colin Kaepernick expressed that when they interviewed him. All he had to do was say it one time. But see, the media in 45 put out there that it was disrespectful to the flag, that it was disrespectful to the anthem and everything like that, and disrespectful to the military, even though the military came out and said they felt like they weren't being disrespected. Colin Kaepernick even had a discussion with military personnel, which is what led him to do the kneeling in the first place. Because if y'all remember, at one point, Colin Kaepernick didn't stand at all. At one point, he was only sitting on the bench with his arms sprawled out or leaning forward. And then when they were done, he got up. But then they was like, oh no, we got to try to see if we can fix this because then it'll look too obvious. That's what they got. Beast mode on, because he was just sitting, but no one really paid attention to him until months later. See, they knew they couldn't get him. They knew they couldn't get him. So they're like, okay, we can't get him. Let's go mess with the other one, the one we feel is safe. See, the thing is, they thought because Colin Kaepernick was quote unquote biracial and that he grew up with a white family who adopted him in a nice neighborhood, that they could easily break him because he was quote unquote, he fit the aesthetic of what they considered to be the safe Negro. Boy, were they wrong. They found out he was more militant than anything else. And then that's when they started to push even harder. He did not give them too much. They hated the fact that he would not get out of character. Like, they were doing anything they could to try to break this man. But they couldn't. That's why the NFL and Roger Goodell are eating their words now. It took them 4 years to do it, but they're eating their words now. They're doing what they call eating crow. And rightfully so. But let me continue. I think it will solve the problem, as Carson said on CNN's State of the Union, and I suggest that they do that. Carson said the controversy over a kneeling protest amounted to two people in a vehement argument talking past each other. The kneeling movement began in 2016 preseason when Kaepernick sat during the national anthem. He switched to kneeling after having spoken with the former NFL long snapper Nate Boyer, a former Green Beret, who said kneeling was a better way to present the message without disrespecting the military on the flag, which is what Colin Kaepernick actually started to do. So you can't say that he was being disrespectful to the military or to the flag when he actually talked to a former Green Beret. And then that's what he agreed to do. So he wasn't being disrespectful. But they forget that. They overlook that. I said, this is one thing I've always said. You do not want to piss off someone with a damn good photographic memory. I remember all of this. A lot of people, like I said, forget Colin Kaepernick was completely sitting on his ass on the bench before he started to kneel, and why he started to kneel opposed to just sitting, and that it was a military personnel suggested he do that. But they're not going to go after that military personnel. They only went after him. What they hate is the fact that it gained so much attention and that a lot of people would tune in every week to see if he would actually do it, because a lot of people gave him the benefit of the doubt. Well, not even so much that. A lot of people thought that, oh, this is just a trend. It's not going to go anywhere. And here we are 4 years later, and now they feel guilty for what they did, and they should feel guilty. But at the end of the day, the damage has been done. That's why I got so mad when Adrian Peterson came out of his mouth and said the players are going to kneel now for this upcoming season. First off, we don't even know if you're going to have an upcoming season. And second, it doesn't matter. The moment is gone. It is gone. Y'all should have did that. Y'all should have been in solidarity with Colin Kaepernick back in 2016. It would have made much of an impact, but y'all left that man out by himself. That's what's disappointing about the whole thing. We already knew how Roger Goodell got down. 45 got in his ear. But since y'all make up the majority of the league, y'all should have been able, and y'all should have been with him. Y'all did it for like 1 or 2 Sundays and stopped because they spooked you. But people claim that they don't like quote unquote mixed and biracial people because they can't trust them. But he showed y'all up every single game for that season. So what does that tell you? That's why I said in my previous video, there are some people out there that I can't, trust and everything like that. But many of them come from a two black parent household. But let me continue. Since then, NFL players, including Kaepernick, have repeatedly made it clear that the protests meant as no disrespect to the military, but are intended to highlight the police brutality. We hate that people are going to see it that we don't respect the military, the men and women that are braver than us, that go and put their life on the line. The NFL defensive back Devin McCourty said in 2017 after 45 blasted those who knelt. Because he called them sons of bitches. I remember that. But we just wanted to send a message of unity and being together and not standing for the disrespect. All of us want to send a message of unity, and not just as a team, but a fraternity of NFL players. Julius Peppers, then an NFL defensive lineman in 2017, made it clear, I want to get one thing clear. This is not about disrespecting the military, disrespecting the flag, police, force responders, none of that. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell apologized to players on Friday for not having listened to their concerns about police brutality. And that's another thing. Roger Goodell, you can keep, like I said in my video, save it and shove it, because that apology is 4 years too late. That would have made a bigger impact if Roger Goodell didn't cave into 45. But he got scared, like many of them players that they got. He shook them to the core. And Roger Goodell went and did the complete opposite. But I'm not surprised what Roger Goodell did, because he's always had a very shady past when it came to him being commissioner of the NFL. I'm sure if you go look it up, you'll find some things in there that are just as bad as what he did right there. But this one right here ranks probably in the top 5 worst things that as a commissioner he could have done. He did not give his players any type of protection. And when I'm talking about players, I'm talking about Colin Kaepernick. He just went and played go along to get along and let that man hang out to dry and let the slings and arrows come to that player instead of being a man and taking it on himself. As commissioner, that's what he should have done. That's why people stopped watching the NFL and their ratings went down. They had to do all these little theatrics and tricks to try to get people to watch, such as hiring Jay-Z, quote unquote, hiring him. And even then, that didn't work. Because I'm not going to really quote Town Biz, but it's something he mentioned. Where's the checkmate? Like, they bought Jay-Z in to do, I forgot what they bought him in for. At this point, it was pointless to bring him in to do anything. But let me continue. We, the National Football League, condemn racism and the systematic oppression of black people, he said. We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to the NFL players earlier and encourage all players to speak out and peacefully protest. That's the thing. It's a backhanded so-called apology, and it's not even genuine, Roger Goodell. You're only saying this because people finally, Roger Goodell had been called out on this crap. He's been called out. But now he's trying to save face, but it's too late, Roger Goodell. He's probably heard when people tried to call to get him removed out of his position. And he's probably scared his job might be in jeopardy. Oh, well, Roger Goodell been commissioner of the NFL since what? The early 2000s? We're talking about probably, a little over 20 years or close to it since he's been commissioner, since he first got sworn as commissioner of the NFL. He's been in that position for a very long time. And like I said in my previous videos, they have all these black players. They don't have many black coaches. They don't have many black managers if they have any of those, but we know for certain they don't have any black owners, or they have never, as far as I can recall, had any black commissioners. Meanwhile, 45 said last week that New Orleans Saints quarterback Drew Brees should not have apologized for his anti-kneeling comments, saying we should be standing up straight and tall, ideally with a salute, and hand on heart, he added, no kneeling. This coming from a man who has proven in the last couple of weeks how anti-establishment he is. But we're not going to get into that. Brees responded to 45 in an Instagram post saying he now realized that this is not an issue about the American flag and has never been. We must stop talking about the flag and shift our attention on the real issues of systemic racial injustice, economic oppression, police brutality, and judicial and prison reform. Kneeling has been a visible element of the protest following George Floyd's death. In Minneapolis, police custody as instances of protesters getting police to take knees have gone viral. Let me say something right now. The police taking a knee right now, especially in the form of that, makes it look like they are kneeling, and it makes them look like almost like a carbon copy of what Derek the Devil Chauvin did. If they really wanted to protest in support of George Floyd, they would just lay right there on the ground. Seeing as how that was the last position he was in. And I don't know why they're kneeling now. Y'all might as well continue standing because that's all y'all been doing all this time. Why switch gears now? The 45's campaign sent out an anti-kneeling email to supporters Saturday. On Sunday, 45 retweeted a photo showing former Vice President Joe Biden taking a knee that read, "Cowards kneel." No, 45, cowards cower. Sort of like what you did when you went and hid in that bunker while them people were standing outside protesting in front of the White House. That's what cowards do. But yeah. This article kind of switched gears a little bit and went, against away from what Ben Carson was saying. But at the same time, Ben Carson, he's a disappointment. Not shocked and not ashamed to even say that. He just is. He has become a waste. And it's a shame because he was helmed up at one point by the black community and by the world as being one of the most famous, notorious surgeons of all time. And this is what he decides to do. Buck dance for his life as if his life depended on it. I have no other words to say.